Modern culture treats exhaustion as a status symbol. People routinely brag about surviving on 4 hours of sleep, pushing through 80-hour work weeks, and locking themselves into a mechanical loop of constant productivity. The logic driving this behavior relies on a promise of deferred salvation. The assumption is that total sacrifice and intense suffering today will eventually guarantee a flawless, stress-free life somewhere down the line. There is a severe flaw in that calculation. That highly anticipated stress-free tomorrow is mathematically and biologically unpromised. When you optimize purely for income at the expense of everything else, you begin operating like an industrial asset. Earning a paycheck is necessary, but confusing financial accumulation with the actual experience of living leaves you wealthy on paper and entirely hollow in reality. The most common defense for this relentless pace relies on the word later. You tell yourself you'll take that trip later, prioritize rest later, and spend time with family later. An abrupt end to life is a sudden statistical reality that instantly voids every carefully plotted retirement projection. Sudden mortality removes later from the equation completely. If the timeline unexpectedly stops, you have to weigh the assets sitting in the bank against the chronic burnout and the neglected relationships. You are forced to ask if those years of endless overtime would still hold their value. Trading your guaranteed present moments for an entirely unknown future is an exceptionally high-risk gamble. Sacrificing your healthiest years for a payoff you might never see operates as a deeply flawed financial strategy. Even for those who survive the relentless hours, the promised payoff point often vanishes right as they finally approach it. The economic mechanism responsible for moving the finish line is known as lifestyle creep. This vertical bar chart tracks the relationship between rising income and outgoing expenses. As you earn more, your standard of living instantly expands to absorb the new cash flow. A raise becomes a larger home, a promotion turns into a luxury vehicle, and your net margin stays exactly at zero. Because the baseline continuously rises, you are forced to sustain an accelerating pace indefinitely. You have to maintain your extreme, exhausting work output merely to keep from falling behind your new, expensive normal. The costs are paid directly in deteriorating physical health, severe psychological burnout, and entirely missed irreplaceable milestones with aging parents or growing children. Lifestyle creep guarantees that the trap remains permanently shut. What was originally designed as a temporary, intense sprint to achieve financial security morphs into an endless, unwinnable marathon. When the physical and mental exhaustion finally peaks, the resulting adjustment is rarely calculated. Instead, many burned-out individuals abandon the concept of financial planning entirely. The realization that time is limited is quickly weaponized. The phrase "life is short" becomes an automatic justification for impulsive purchases and completely ignoring budgets. This pendulum graphic models the behavioral reaction to extreme burnout. The momentum swings entirely past the center and slams directly into impulsive spending. Buying expensive luxury goods to numb the stress of the work week is pure escapist consumerism, an entirely different action than genuinely enjoying life. Racking up debt to feel alive today systematically dismantles your financial security for tomorrow. It guarantees future stress in exchange for a momentary distraction. The obsessed hoarder and the reckless spender approach money from opposite directions, yet they arrive at the exact same destination. Neither possesses actual long-term freedom. The universally accepted measurement for success relies heavily on arbitrary numbers. We judge progress entirely by net worth, the accumulation of luxury assets, and visible social status. A more accurate calculation of success measures personal autonomy. Genuine wealth is heavily weighted toward how much control you hold over your own daily schedule. This portfolio report illustrates a completely different asset class. In a genuine assessment of wealth, the highest valuations belong to the ability to wake up without dread, maintaining your physical health, and prioritizing meaningful experiences over accumulating physical objects. Many of the individuals projecting extreme opulence online hold completely empty portfolios under these specific metrics. Behind the expensive facade, they are chronically anxious, physically compromised, and entirely trapped by their financial obligations. Accumulating high net worth while losing your health and your autonomy misses the entire point of the exercise. That is merely survival wrapped in expensive packaging. The optimal strategy sits right in the middle of the spectrum. It requires building a sturdy financial foundation for your future without mathematically or emotionally bankrupting your present moments. Navigating this center path gives you maximum leverage. You secure capital for tomorrow without making yourself miserable today, and you extract joy from the present without sabotaging your future security. You cannot pause your existence waiting for ideal conditions. Treating your youth as a waiting room for a flawless future guarantees you will miss the only life you currently have. The ultimate measure of a well-played life is determined by how you view it at the end. You want to arrive at the finish line deeply grateful that you actually lived, rather than realizing you spent all your time merely preparing to do so.